Definitely looks like a GPD Win. Let's take a look what's inside, so... Well, would you look at that? It's Android. As you can see, I've added a dummy accelerometer to the whole thing to make the screen auto-rotate in the right orientation. And you'll see that I've taken the liberty to pre-install a few applications of my own that I'm intending to show you guys. First of all, before I go into this little demonstration of mine, I want to remind all of you that this is, after all, an x86 based processor running in the GPD Win. This has a few issues when it comes to Android. Mostly because the Android ecosystem is dominated by ARM-based processors. So you will find that most of the applications in the Play Store are also made for ARM processors. This poses a little bit of a problem because ARM applications will not run on x86-based processors. I added a little tiny bit to this system that allows you to somewhat circumvent those restrictions. However, you will find that most of the applications in the Play Store still fail to function. However, if you feel like being somewhat risky, you can go in here into the apps compatibility section and enable the native bridge. This will make a whole bunch of ARM-based applications, also mostly those small browser applications and whatnot else, run properly on the GPD Win. However, don't expect the big AAA blockbuster games to run by doing this. However, even without the native bridge, you will find that a whole bunch of applications run perfectly fine on an x86 based Android operating system. Some of them way better than they would ever do on Windows. I wanted to start straight off with that one because, as you all might know, PlayStation 1 emulation is somewhat of a double-edged sword on Windows. Some games run, while others, like one of my favorites, Gauntlet Legends, simply slows down to a crawl of about 30% speed. Over here, if we decide to run FPSE as our emulator, you will quickly come to realize that Android paints a different picture. You might have already guessed, but yes, the game runs full speed on here, as you can tell from the opening animation already. I don't know if I will actually be able to reproduce it this time around, but sometimes you will run into little stutters while playing on this. This is not linked to the emulator or the game. This is actually because I've got the game ISO hosted on a microSD card inside the GPD Win, And as you all might know, the GPD Win has some little issues reading from the micro SD card at times, which are somewhat linked to power safety, not power safety, power saving regulations. So I'm pretty sure we will run into it eventually. But as you can tell, the game's fluid, something I have not ever seen on the GPD Win. Especially not on Windows. Let's take it for a test drive. Oh my goodness, the memories. Also, while doing this video, please excuse me for sucking terribly at whatever I'm playing. You see, I'm playing this through the viewfinder of my camera, which adds a little bit of a delay for me, making the gaming input somewhat sluggish. I can guarantee you so that there is no input lag and that pretty much everything's instantaneous. And here we see the micro SD card reading lag. I've done tests about this, and if you have your games stored on the internal storage or a USB device, you will not suffer from these slowdowns. I've got a good idea how to fix it for good, but it will probably not be bundled in the first build that I'm going to release. Rest assured, so I will find a fix for it and bundle it eventually. If it was about me, just this emulator alone is enough of a reason to actually port Windows to this device. However, let's move on. There's more to show you guys. Obviously, you will be able to run every basic app you will find on Android. Mostly messengers and whatever else you can imagine. I'm not going to log in right now and show you that, but trust me, it works. Now the one that's most interesting for most people, the PlayStation Portable emulator. We all know it runs on Windows, but it's good to know that it also does a good job on Android. Alright, let's take this into a quick battle somewhere.
quietly.
I think it's about time we get to work. Looks like I'm your opponent.
Yeah.
I don't care if the wind's at my face.
I've been waiting for this.
I'm sorry for the occasional audio crackling. Sadly, I have to turn the GPD all the way up so my camera picks it up.
Stay focused on what's ahead. Here, catch!
I'll give it my all.
Better show 'em what I can do.
I'm going to get very angry at you in a moment.
So far so good. Let's move straight on to the next one. Everyone knows RetroArch, it's a pain in the ass to set up, but once you get it going, it's pretty much one of the go-to emulators for pretty much everything. Let's give a few of those a try. First off, let's try Game Boy Advance games. First and foremost, I have to say I really suck at this game, so don't expect too much of me. Oh man, seeing me drift into the grass makes me so happy that I picked programming as my profession and not professional gaming. Alright, still made it first place. Let's see what else I've prepared. Ooh, good one. To my surprise, the Parallel N64 core actually works.
It's me, Mario.
It's one of my favorite cores for RetroArch, to be honest,
Hello.
but most devices have issues running it properly.
Okie dokie.
To save us the whole intro stuff, I already created a save file for this. I mean, I didn't play too far, but come here. Alright. Let's try playing through a level, while I'll give you some more details about this operating system. First and foremost, all of you should be knowing by now that this is a prototype. It's come full of bugs, sleep mode isn't working all the way just yet, and Bluetooth is rendered broken at the moment because of a new kernel driver change. Which doesn't mean that it's actually broken, it works just fine if you operate it through the terminal. However, the Android operating system does not know what to do with the new drivers. So if you try to enable Bluetooth while being in the Bluetooth menu, you will actually run into somewhat of a deadlock. Long story short, if you want to run Bluetooth right now, do it the hard way. Go into the terminal, run an HCI config command or something. But avoid the GUI at the moment. Oh, damn it. As you can tell, I'm not a good multitasker. I will bring an update for the Bluetooth issue later down the road, of course. After all, I already know what the issue is, it's just that there is no open source implementation for it yet. That means I have to write my own. Which isn't the issue, I can definitely do it. It's just a bit time consuming and I didn't want to keep you guys waiting and rather surprise you with an early Christmas present. So I decided to give you a release that doesn't have full Bluetooth functionality just yet. But don't worry, it's around the corner and it will be coming. There we go. What else could I show you guys? I could show you Wario Land too, but the intro is so goddamn long. I don't want to bore you guys. Other than that, there really isn't too much to show. Oh wait! One more thing I nearly forgot. The one thing pretty much everyone wants Android for. Stupid me. Drastic, aka proper Nintendo DS emulation. As you can tell by the intro scene already, this is a no-brainer, it just works. And it pretty much complements the GPD Win's regular functionalities, because the two biggest flaws it has is it has no proper PlayStation 1 and NDS emulator for Windows. Both which have been fixed by this release, more or less. Alright, somewhat of awkward positioning to hold the camera, but I guess it works for the NDS emulator. All I can tell you is, it's pretty marvelous to be able to run this properly.
So nice.
Well, big surprise, it works. I've moved the buttons to the side here like they would be with a regular tablet, as they seem to be easier to use and to take less space away from the screen than if I had put them on the bottom. Obviously, all of the multitasking stuff works. As for the Bluetooth issue I mentioned, if you really need a workaround right now, and you need to have Bluetooth functionality in this trade first build, remember, the feature is actually in there, it's just the GUI of Android that doesn't know how to handle it yet. You can actually just open a root shell and type HCI config HCI 0 space up, and it will enable the actual Bluetooth adapter. I don't know if I can get the camera to focus on this. Probably not. But either way, this will enable the Bluetooth adapter, and you can Google for how to enable or how to pair Bluetooth devices via HCI config. And you will find that everything runs. It's just fine. However, it's a little bit of a rough patch until we get the Bluetooth HAL implemented properly. However, it works. In a pinch, maybe if you save it in a script file, you will come to actually prefer this way. You could maybe make a button straight on the home screen that pairs your favorite tools. Who knows? Be prepared for the occasional hiccup here and there. It is a prototype after all. And as I mentioned before, yes, Google Play is a thing. Obviously only if you actually connect to Wi-Fi. There we go. All better. Google Play is a thing. You can download whatever you want. However, due to the x86 processor and the GPD Win, most of the things you'll find in there will simply not work. Like, I can almost guarantee you that most of those 3D AAA titles will not work. It's just a given. However, you will find that more basic games run just fine. Games that have an x86 build in the store obviously run fine. No big surprise here. And you will find that most media players run just fine. The only issue I've found is that Moonlight, the favorite gaming streaming app, whatever you want to call it, in the store at the moment simply does not work. The reason this is because Moonlight has a weird ass way to detect if your hardware is actually H.264 codec capable. The device is capable, however, Moonlight's opinion begs to differ. you will get a warning that it's not H.264 compatible, despite all media players being able to play it just fine. I will take a look at it in the future. Maybe I can work on a little patch that will make it work in the future. For now, so sadly, it's a no-go. Other than that, yes, my typical apps work. Root access works. Play Store works.